Hi, I'm Tanja Hayes. Let's learn some more economics. So we know about supply and demand and how they get to this equilibrium point. And then what we're going to think about is what happens if one of these curves shift, so the demand or supply curve move. And so there are about 5 things that can shift either one of these, kind of depending on your textbook and how they break it down. But basically the things that can shift the demand curve would be prices of related goods, expected future prices, the income of the people, the population, and the preferences of the people. And then on the supply side of things, there are about 5 things that can shift the supply curve as well. And those are prices of related goods, input costs, expected future prices of the item, the number of sellers, and productivity. So in general, we have these different lists of things that can shift these curves, but really it's all about logic. So we don't have to worry too much if we don't memorize every little item. We can just kind of think it through. So let's do a couple of examples. Let's say that for some reason the income level in the area goes up. So consumers now have more money. What happens when you have more money? You usually buy more stuff. And that is for what we call normal goods. That's the definition of a normal good, is if you have higher income, you buy more of it. There are also these things called inferior goods, which are when you make more money, you buy less of them. So maybe as you move up in the world, you leave some things behind. Maybe, for example, 10-cent ramen noodle. Maybe you don't buy that as much as your income goes up. So that would be an inferior good. Or maybe dollar store items. They might be inferior goods. Your income goes up, you buy less of them. But let's use an example of a normal good, so just regular clothing or whatever. So let's say that the people's income in the area goes up. So we start out at our initial equilibrium, but because things are going to move and change, I'm going to switch this to be called Q1 and P1, just meaning that we are here originally. And then we have this original demand curve, D1. But then people's incomes go up. And so they're going to want to buy more of the stuff. So more means we're going to the right, higher quantities. So when the income goes up, the demand curve is going to shift to the right. So we can draw a new demand curve, call it D2, and take a look at what happens to our equilibrium. So now we have a new equilibrium up here, which means that we have our new equilibrium quantity, Q2, over here. So people earned more money, they're buying more stuff, we get a higher output. Also though, the price goes up. More people are wanting the stuff, it's going to become more popular or whatever, and so therefore the price ends up going up. So we can simply take this graph, look at any of those factors that move supply and demand, and see what happens to the equilibrium. In this case, price goes up, quantity goes up. All right, so we have reset our diagram. We are back at the original equilibrium, back to where we started. And this time we're going to imagine that something else happens, which is that suppliers believe that the price of this item is going to go up for some reason. There's some sort of rumors or whatever is going on. They think that, you know what, next week we could be able to sell this for higher. So what would they do right now? They would try to sell less, right, and hold on to that stuff so they could sell it for those higher prices later. So if suppliers expect the price of the item to go up, then they would sell less of it now. So they would move, or the supply curve would shift towards lesser quantities, so to the left. So the supply curve would go from S1 here to S2 over here. And then we can take a look again at what happens to output and price. So our quantity, which we call output, that one decreases now. And what about the price? The price went up. So simply by thinking of which curve shifts and then redrawing it, we can tell what happens. So if suppliers think that prices are going to go up next week, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because they pull back a little bit right now, and that actually makes the price go up. So, But anyway, that's how it works. So that's how we can tell what happens to price and quantity when any of these factors of supply or demand move. And we have to think through logically, would this make the curve shift right towards higher quantities or left towards lower quantities? And then we can take it from there. Thanks. See you soon.